How the hell is everybody doing? Give me just a minute. I'm setting up everything on my end, and then I'll be popping on through. Enjoy the tunes while you're at it. What's up, everybody? For the next hour, I'm going to be your host. My name is Matt, the Grass Factor, Martin, live from Knoxville, Tennessee, here to answer your lawn questions. I hope everybody's enjoying their Sunday. Welcome aboard the Soul Train. You are watching the live show. So a little bit about this. The way this is going to go is you ask questions. I will do my best to provide answers. Couple of caveats there. A lot of these times when I'm asking questions in specific scenarios, I'm giving my opinion. My opinion is based off my education, my experience. If you have a different education and a different set of experiences, you may have different opinions. The fact of the matter is that what I am saying is not gospel by any stretch of means of the imagination. So understand, there are more than one way to skin a cat. I'm just giving you the most thought out way I possibly can here in about 30 seconds. Okay? That's usually about all I have to formulate an answer to a question is about 30 seconds. So understand the second part of this is I will sometimes make a mistake. I will misspeak. I am only human. I am not I am fallible. Therefore, sometimes I will word vomit things that may not be okay. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the show. Like I said, this is an open format, meaning you ask questions, I provide answers. The best way for me to get to your question is for you to ask it in the chat. One thing you have to keep in mind is that it takes me a hot minute to get to the questions because I'm on about a 30-second delay right here. Just in case I got to go in and delete somebody's comment or something. No, I'm just kidding. That's not why I have to do that. I'm on a 30-second delay just because of the internet of things that take place. So understand that normally what I'm speaking is I'm just seeing things from, you're seeing me answer something from 30 seconds prior. Then the other piece of this is it takes me a second. It takes me a hot minute. It takes me quite a while to start at the beginning of the questions and make my way all the way to the end of it. So just understand that's kind of the nature of the beast. That's just how it rolls. And oftentimes it takes me a minute to get to the question. If I skip over your question, feel free to ask again. Again, I make mistakes. And sometimes when I'm doing this, again, this is all stream of consciousness. This is not planned by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I just walked in the door. Not even 20 minutes before I got on the air. I set up the live stream from my phone tonight while I was out in the world with my family because, believe it or not, I actually do have a personal life as well. And got a little, still drinking the Propels, got a little Propel in the cup, so just enough to wet the whistle and get this thing going. So, like I said, if you have, I got a beard hair in my mouth, which makes it difficult to speak. If you have a question you would like me to answer, by all means, feel free to throw it into the chat. With that, man, I tell you what, to whoever said I shouldn't do the noises, I do not apologize, but you know, I'm gonna. I'm just doing it. I'm just going to get it out of the way. And I would normally do unnecessary, sir. Unnecessary. So, in fact, I'll just go ahead and start this. This is kind of the first thing that showed up and got my attention, and I'll scoot back up. I think Matt Martinez had the first question here. Aldo Beltran said, what's the best way to get rid of my 10x10 shed in my backyard? MSM or gasoline and matches? I tell you right now, from my experience, it's actually don't even set it on fire. Set something on fire near it and let it burn down that way. Kind of second-handedly burn down. That is where I have had the most success burning down sheds. And in fact, it was about the same size, a 10x10. I actually started a fire in my backyard, and it took about a couple of hours later. But boy, that shed was fully involved. Right, I'm going to go back up here to Matt Martinez. What did he say? I think he said something along the lines of any recent studies that you have read that get you interested or excited about turf. So yeah, there's lots of them that I go through that get me excited about turf. You know, because, and I was kind of talking about this during the radio show. If you're interested in the radio show, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. at turfsupradio.com. I'm on there. And biochar has been something that's being brought up a lot to me right now. For some reason, there's kind of a renewed interest in it. And as a result, I've kind of been burying my head back into that research, and it's always interesting because it's always applicable for turf, right? And you have to see between the lines because so much of the studies that take place there are generally geared more towards agriculture. So it's fun to revisit that and look at some of the interesting characteristics you can get out of it by manipulating, one, your feedstock, and two, your pyrolysis temperature. Kind of the second piece is I love running in-house experiments. I mean, we do these all day long. Let me see if I can get that to focus. And, you know, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different racks going of different things. And I just, man, it's so much fun to watch the different variables and see. Let me see. Focus! If anybody watches AVE, focus! I enjoy doing that and trying to replicate things I see that are already out there. So, for instance, replicating things you see with like the peptide study, for instance. I think the peptide study we've got on carbonearth.co. You can see one of the latest ones we did at facebook.com/carbonearth.co. You can look us up, Carbon Earth Co. on Facebook, and you can see a lot of the stuff we do there as well. Just kind of interesting, fun stuff, things you hear about, but you want to try it in person and see if you can replicate that, because as my dad always said, if it is replicable, therefore, what did he say? If you can repeat the problem, you can solve the problem. So that's why we like to do those things over and over and over to make sure, you know, all of that, you know, comes to fruition in the way we expect it to. Otherwise, you may come across a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say, a happy little accident, and discover something that you may not be looking for on the front end. So, but as far as that, right now, I'm knee deep in biochar and also in the amino acid studies for sure. That is for sure. Okay, let's see. Matt would be a great PA for a rodeo. I would enjoy doing a rodeo. Robert Butler says, Matt, I got some sedge, clover, dandelions, etc. I want to fry and was going to tank mix some Pro Sedge and triplet. It's irrigated, but there is some heat stress. Am I asking for trouble? I'm assuming you have cool season grass, Mr. Butler. And if you have heat stress, are you asking for trouble? Yes, kinda. What you can do effectively at that point is back down your rate, and you should be okay. So instead of running a full 1.5 ounces per 1,000, you can back that down to about an ounce, maybe even 1.25 ounces per 1,000. Lushy, unnecessary, sir. Back your rate down a little bit. So you'll see on the label that there is a rate variability that goes on now that we're in peak heat. Run the lower spectrum of that rate, and you should get ample efficacy to control simple to control things like clover, not exceptionally difficult to control. Dandelions, not exceptionally difficult to control as well. Understand, just because it is hot, don't expect to see a complete and total kill in 4 days, 3 days, 4 days. You're going to see significant damage in 3 or 4 days, but you're not going to see a total kill in evaporation. That is still going to be somewhere between that 2 and 3 week range before that takes place.
Hell yeah!
Okay. T-Don, that's a funny statement there. Patrick Hayes says, anything new with Bermuda? I am in the Charlotte area, very interested in overseeding my Tiff-Tuff Bermuda with bluegrass, unless Bermuda has made advancements. No, 100% has not made advancements. I tell you what has made advancements, and that's Bermuda. And I would fully encourage you, especially where you are in Charlotte, to go ahead and run with that. In fact, I want to see more of that in the transition zone, especially in more difficult areas of the transition zone with a lot of unpredictability. Charlotte, you're a little bit more predictable there. You're a little bit better for warm season grass than, say, where I am in Knoxville, but not by much. So I still think you are a great candidate right there. You're an awesome candidate for it. So by all means, I would not recommend Bermuda by any stretch of the imagination. I would absolutely recommend Blue Muta. I'm going to pull up a different chat window here so it's a little bit easier for me to see. Okay, that's much better. This one's difficult to see way over yonder. Let me find out where I am. Why doesn't the live chat show everything that's stated on your scrolling screen? I have no idea, man. I use a piece of software that aggregates all this information right here, and sometimes it may not pick it up all. Let's see. Techno Vol, go Vols. Yes, sir. Go Vols. I have soil that's practically 100% silt. It's very hydrophobic. What specific wetting agent should I try to get the water moving? So first and foremost, just knowing what I know about our area right here, Techno Vol, is really any of them are going to perform about the same. I will say I have, I think, honestly, this would be a good fit for hydrotane, especially if you're not irrigated in our area. With our soils, typically going to be a little bit on the higher end of magnesium. So I think hydrotane would be your best bet in that scenario. I've run a lot of them. In fact, when I had my business here in Knoxville, I ran a lot of duplex, and I had good success with duplex. Now, a lot of the times when I was running a wetting agent, specifically a wetting agent, I was doing it to move something into the soil, whether that be there's been a couple times I've had to go after nematodes and a couple other just odd things I would have to do like that. And I would run duplex with it, and it worked very well for what it did. Now, on the flip side, whenever I did seed establishment in this area, I used hydrotane. Hydrotane was something I just went to, especially if I had a difficult to overcome seed job without irrigation. And especially if it was going to be a large property, then that was just something I usually built into my bids, was the cost to use hydrotane in that scenario. So ultimately it comes down to your budget. There's going to be a little bit difference between the two of those. One is designed for infiltration. The other one is designed as a polymer to actually absorb atmospheric humidity, atmospheric moisture, and pull moisture into the soil that way. Where I think you're going, I think hydrotane would be a better bet for you without me just looking at the issue. Paul Rhodes, hello, Matt. Does foliar transfer only happen when the chemical is wet? Once dried, there really isn't much more transfer. Yes, in effect, yes. That's why some of these products you will see, it will have an in-can humectant, and the humectant being something to keep it wet longer, therefore to increase the length of time that uptake can occur. So yes, in effect. Now, that being said, a lot of times there's a lot of movement that can occur really fast. So not necessarily something you need to be overly concerned with. If it is one of those things that can dry real fast before you get efficacy, a lot of times those manufacturers are the ones that are putting humectants into the product. In fact, even some foliar nitrogen sources you'll see, like for instance, methylene urea. A lot of times, if you have a high-end methylene urea product, they will include an in-can humectant because the humectant portion of it will aid in foliar uptake. B-Ruck said, any issues with mixing acclaim and triplet together? Trying to save time combating Johnson grass and broadleaves in one pass. B-Ruck, I highly recommend you read the label because you cannot mix acclaim and triplet. Acclaim and 2,4-D do not go well together. They'll mix fine in the container, but 2,4-D negates all effects from phenoxyprop. You cannot mix those two. In fact, I think MCPA, dicamba, and Mecaprop 2 also, thank you, sir, thank you, all will have an effect on the efficacy of acclaim. So what I would recommend is not mixing those two. There are products out there that contain phenoxyprop, and actually, I don't think Last Call is still on the market. It used to be a product called Last Call, which was a combination of fluroxypyr and acclaim. You can run that. It's hard to find just straight fluroxypyr. You're probably not going to be able to find it. So unfortunately, in this instance, you're going to have to make separate applications because, whoa, Lushy, what are you doing, man? You typoed. You just fat fingered $160 towards me. I'm going to send that back to you as soon as the show is over. What are you thinking, Lushy? I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to kick your ass, Lushy. Somebody get Cindy on the phone right now, because I'm going to beat the absolute fire out of you, sir. I am sending that right back to you. Golly. Man, Lushy, I'm gonna box your ears, dude. You have lost your mind. Stop it, Lushy. Golly. Yeah, it's hot. Man, you just infuriate me. Now I lost my spot. I don't know where I am anymore. I lost my all my mojo I had going here. Let me see if I can figure out where I am and what's going on. So B-Ruck, read the label on that. You cannot mix those two. Be done with it. I'm gonna put you and Cindy in a headlock under each arm. Is what I'm gonna do, Lushy. I'm gonna kick your ass, Aaron. Golly. Anyway, okay, let's see. The Lawn Stripe says, what would my point of diminishing returns be if ice bank mice elf? Boy, this is funny. This is funny. We got a question here, and I just want to answer this real quick because this is a common misconception. Will 0060 help with heat stress? No. 0060, it has one of the highest, that's muriate of potash, potassium chloride, has one of the highest salt indexes of any fertilizer source that you can go with. That is going to exaggerate heat stress. That is going to, you're talking about increased burn potential. You're talking about displacing other ions in the leaf tissue. That is going to increase heat stress. That will increase heat stress. If you want to use potassium as a tool in mitigation of heat stress, you have to use a low salt index formulation. You've got a couple of options for low salt index formulations. You can spray potassium acetate. You can spread sulfate of potash. You can spread potassium phosphate. You can spread monopotassium phosphate or dipotassium phosphate. Or you can spray low rates of potassium nitrate. All of those. 0060 is not a good choice in that scenario, in my experience, in my opinion. George Popa, I saw that. That's funny. Popo and Son says, I love carbonator, smells like CRRP. Yes, sir. Billy Poole, 901 in the yes, my man. James Carr said, my neighbor cut down a crepe myrtle. It is trying to grow from the roots. How do you kill it? Good luck. There's no, man, I tell you what, in the years I've been doing this, I've yanked out crepe myrtles from the roots. I've sprayed them with metsulfuron. I've sprayed them with imazapyr. I've sprayed them with glyphosate. You name it, I have sprayed it with it, and I've never had success with it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that just takes time. Depending on your turf type, I don't know what kind of grass you have, but repeated applications of triclopyr may help, or triclopyr combined with fluroxapyr may help, but just understand it's going to continue to come back until it's fully dead. And good luck trying to get that thing to fully die. At that point, it's really an invasive. Once you plant it, it ain't going nowhere. I've seen them die, and most of the time I see them die, I see them when they get really old, and then they start freezing, and it destroys the vascular tissue of the tree. Outside of that, they don't really die, man. They're just a complete and total pain in the ass. So best guess, if you have cool season grass, use a combination of triclopyr and fluroxapyr. If you have warm season grass, use something like metsulfuron methyl. And if outside of that, good luck. I really got nothing else to tell you. Noise is just one part that would make it for a killer rodeo. T-Dot, I'm drinking the yellow Propel, the lemon. This is the one my wife likes, and so I we keep it by the case here, and I drink a lot of it. Robert Butler said, I've got this incredibly fast-growing, lighter-colored grass, not poa-triv. It's about the same width as Kentucky bluegrass. No seed heads or any of that. It's driving me nuts. Any ideas what it could be? Yeah, Robert Butler, simple answer. That's actually your Kentucky bluegrass freaking out with the heat. So you're going to hit this point with Kentucky bluegrass where it'll just wig out because it doesn't like the heat that it's facing right now, especially if it hasn't hardened off. How do you get it to harden off? Make sure you're running plenty of potassium in your program. If you are potassium deficient, it's going to be harder to harden off that plant, and therefore you're going to get more exaggerated of these freaked out issues from it, where you just got bluegrass that seems is growing 1.5 inches overnight, real fine, weak ass looking, just a fine yellow blade. I get messages about it every week, picture after picture after picture after picture, and it's all the same thing. Most of the time when I look at the soil test, they're bottomed out on potassium. They're going to be less than 50 parts per million or 60 parts per million. And then the second piece of that, they haven't really put down much for the entirety of the year, and what they're left with is a grass that is just freaking out due to the heat. And now the heat part you cannot control. So at some point, it's just going to be it. When you're in that in-between stage, like we kind of are right now. The other time I saw this was like in May and June. Now we moved into August. We're seeing it again. This is where we're starting to slow down. We're losing daylight hours. Therefore, as we keep moving further and further, we're moving back into prime growing season for the Kentucky bluegrass. So we're not quite there yet. We're still in the dog days of summer, but we've lost the number of daylight hours. Therefore, we're getting just a little bit, trying to regenerate from a little regenerative growth from that Kentucky bluegrass. Polo says, when is a good time to put the lawn to bed from winter? Is Carbon X a good product to use for this? Yeah, so I know you're in Louisville, Kentucky, so I'm going to say mid-November would probably be a good time. Normally I started around November 1st, and then I finished somewhere around Christmas is when I would. And we may have a couple 2-3 days that hit freezing somewhere in that time frame, but I'd call it good. I put it down then. And Carbon X would be a good one. Probably a better one that's going to be better for you, Polo, would be, we have a product called X Drive that we're going to be making a big push for overseeding for winterization. So X Drive would be a better bet for you there, just from an applicator perspective, due to your cost per application. Bermuda Boss, I just got some Eagle fungicide for my Bermuda. Will it cause any yellowing? Temps are hitting 90s over the day. If there is potential for it, because it is a DMI, so what I would do is spray it early in the morning or late in the afternoon. What you don't want to do is go out there and spray it when it's super covered with dew and all this fun stuff, or act like dew is going to water it in for you. Look at the Ohio fans in here. It's hilarious. But go ahead and get it down early. Realistically, have I ever seen anybody burn a lawn with Eagle? No, I haven't. I've never done it, so I think you'd be fine. But if you want to play by the letter of the law, then do it in your first half of the day before you get up to the 90s. Ted Daniel says, how long are herbicides stable? I never find expiration dates on products. I'm nervous to buy expensive products as a homeowner. That's a good question. As long as you can keep it from freezing, more than likely it's going to be good for the duration of that product. If it freezes, a lot of times it can separate, and then it'll be hard to get it to go back into solution, if it goes back into solution at all. So keep it from freezing. Normally, it's going to be good for an extended period of time. Now, if you mix that herbicide with water to form a spray solution that you can go out and go spray weeds with, then at that point, after 24 hours, you might be able to get up to 36, 48, maybe even a week out of it. But realistically, after about 24 hours, you're going to start to lose a lot of ability, a lot of oomph out of that herbicide. If you could pick anywhere in the country to live, specifically for a grass for you to take care of, where would I pick? I would pick Florida, and I would probably pick anywhere to live. It's kind of a tough one because I would still want a little bit of a winter. So I would say probably North Florida, maybe like near the Pensacola area would be a good spot for me, or maybe even on the other side near Jacksonville. One of those two areas would probably be most ideal for me, so I I could grow Meyer Z52 zoysia grass, the old tried and true. I don't want any of the new fancy Bermuda grasses. I don't want any of the new fancy zoysia grasses. I want tried and true Z52 Meyer zoysia. I like the classics. My favorite gun is a 1911A1. My favorite grass type is Meyer Z52 zoysia, baby. That's all there is to it. When can we tour the plant? Oh, wait, hang on. Before I get to that, George, I will answer that. Money B22 says, best place to look for consolidated list of new studies similar to medical journals that consolidate them. Well, that's just, yeah, it's kind of hard to find, but you can find it. So I have a membership to a place called Deep Dive, DEEPDYVE. And normally what I'll do if I'm looking for something, so we'll say like a 2,4-D turf grass efficacy trial, right? I can type that into Google, and I see a publication here from UGA. I see one from 24d.org, which sounds, yes, it might have some good ones. I see one from Texas A&M University. I see a fact sheet from Oregon State. I see one from BIRC.org. I see one from NCBI.gov. So, and then here's one from ResearchGate, right? So I go to this one from ResearchGate and say, okay, this one's going to be in the weed technology issue of September of 2015. I can go to that, and there will be a consolidated journal that starts all the way from the year 2000 and runs all the way to 2020. Now, you have to have access to that. How do you get access to that? You either buy a membership for ResearchGate or one of the other services like Deep Dive like I do. That's probably the best way to get it. Now, normally what I do when I'm reading a study like that, there's going to be a list at the end that cites all their sources to come up with the information they used in their study. I like to look at the first study and then go through all the sources and read all those studies, because that will give you so much more of a foundation for what you were trying to study to begin with. And then when you look at those, you can look at those sources that were cited, and it's a never-ending wormhole of just information you are free to pound into your brain. George Popa, when can we tour the plant? We were hoping to possibly do something this winter, but in lieu of the coronavirus, we cannot do that because we can't afford to have downtime at the plant. So we do not want to take the risk or the potential for any of our plant workers to get coronavirus. We've dealt with that enough as it is, and there is nothing fun about that at all. It stresses out the guys at the plant. It stresses us out in management. It stresses everybody on board. It stresses our buying customers out. So it's a bad deal all the way around. So we cannot take the risk to do that right now. So fortunately, that gives us a little bit longer time to plan and strategize for what we will be doing in the future when we do open up the door for it. Polo says, when is a good time to apply pre-emergent to prevent winter weeds? Had a lot of henbit chickweed last year, and what is a good product to use? Does this also require multiple applications? So realistically, to prevent your winter weeds, you need to put it down somewhere around early September, because that's going to be your germination period for winter weeds. That's when the majority of them are, but that's also when you're overseeding fescues. So there's not really a good time to do it. And that's why a lot of people with cool season grass don't do it, because it's a heck of a lot cheaper to spray out your henbit and chickweed than it is to have to manipulate your schedule in order to time your pre-emergent with your seed applications. So normally what I would do is make a blanket application of weed control my very first round. I would go up my first round usually mid-January, early February. I would go out with a good product, like I would roll my own 4-Speed XT or roll my own Speed Zone-like product and go out with that very first application out of the gate, round one. So that way, when I went back round two, I wasn't dealing with those weeds. I had already killed them because they came up back in September when I seeded the grass. So now, even though I can't see them real well in January, I go ahead and make a blanket application, and then I'm done with it. I killed them all before I gave them an opportunity to even come up by choosing a good, solid herbicide mix that's going to take care of them, even in cooler weather. It's Lawn and Poppin'. What's up, dude? How are you, sir? Real low dad is not scared to go down with 3 ounces per 1,000 MFT, and you can do that. Listen, there is a fudge factor involved with all of those products to make sure people don't go out and kill their grass. I will say 3 ounces per 1,000 is within the margin of error, so you're fine to go there. It's just we don't label it that way because of the potential for something catastrophic to happen if it fell into the wrong hands of the wrong person, because all of a sudden you're at 3 ounces. Well, maybe I'll double it to 6, and maybe I'll get a little heavy in my overlap, and then all of a sudden we start running into issues. So 3 ounces, you should be good. RBL Jackson, Matt, what would your fert and water schedule be for Bermuda green? I have a gold cup flag in my front yard, advertised in the lawn biz. Been mowing around a half and using T-Nex overseeded Arden 15 into it. That is a hard question. Now, as far as my fert schedule, I would be applying at least. I see Ryan's comment in there now. Oh, boy. OSU Turf Man caught me off surprise. I saw it out of one eye looking down, and that was funny. It's funny. So as far as my fertilization program, I wouldn't get too out of control with it or anything extreme. I'd probably put it on a monthly application, and I'd run probably a 1-to-1 NK, and I'd probably front load it with phosphorus on the front end. So realistically, RBL Jackson, this is what that would look like for me. My first application of the year, I'd probably run an application of MAP 11520. And then after that, I'd run either 818 or a 10010 or a 15015 or a 20020. I would run that monthly from that point moving forward. And that's just how I would handle it. Now, if you have common Bermuda right now, this is one thing I will say, RBL Jackson, and I'll have to do a video about this at some point. And this is one of the things I noticed in my backyard. I kept it very heavily regulated the first half of the growing season. Then I let it go out of regulation for about 2 weeks. I let it go out of regulation. And I have to say, the density that came out of my turf, letting it go out of regulation, was 10x that it was in regulation. And in fact, the overall health and appearance of the lawn looks significantly better now that it's out of regulation. And in fact, there's something weird going on with that about letting it come out of regulation and making sure it's fed while coming out of regulation, that it looks so much better than it did under regulation. And it looks normal. It looks better than it normally does, even if it wasn't under regulation. I know that's kind of a lot of regulation being thrown around there, but I think there may be something with common Bermuda letting it come out of regulation that just improves turf quality. It could be me just dreaming stuff up, but I'm telling you, I just watched it, and I watched it every day, and there's something was going on, because boy, it didn't just increase a little bit. I mean, we're talking about an exponential leap in density and quality. Polo says, when overseeding, should XO be applied and about how many pounds per 1,000? So you can apply it then, as long as it's warm outside, you can apply XO. People seem to get tripped up on this one about a perfect time to apply it. The truth of it is that there is no perfect time to apply it, except as long as it's warm outside, right? If it's cold outside, you're not really getting your bang for your buck for it, because it's not really releasing then. It's not going to release until it gets warm outside, so it's just going to sit there idly. So the best time for you to apply it is going to be when it's warm or actively growing kind of situation. Outside of that, then you can do it. There's just no real return on investment for doing it in the short term. There is in the long term, just not the short term. So what I would recommend is, if you're overseeding, fine, time to do it. If you want to do it now prior to overseeding, fine, you can do it. If you want to do it after you overseed, fine, you can do it then too. At what rate? Follow bag rate, 10 to 20 pounds per 1,000. I know there are people out there that go 40 to 50 pounds per 1,000. You can do that, but I promise you're not going to see any difference between 20 pounds per 1,000 and 40 pounds per 1,000. It just depends on what you're looking to do from it. Now, if you're trying to actually get a significant amount of material down to really, really manipulate the physical structure of the soil, then you can apply it at 50 pounds per 1,000. If you're just looking to get a enhanced performance out of your turf, then you can stick to that 10 to 20 pounds per 1,000. So that's why I make that recommendation. Ryan, I'm reading your comment again, and it's still funny. Where am I? Oh, boy. Got simazine in your mouth. I did do that before, too. Greg Aspenson says, do you recommend separate NPK products for homeowners? And if so, what product would you recommend for regular use alongside your granular program? It's kind of up in the air. I'm not going to say no, but I'm also not going to say yes either. I'm going to leave it kind of idly by. You can do it, but here's the thing. It's not going to be one of those things that you can go apply. More is better. You have to be very strict. You have to understand exactly what you're doing, and you have to be calculated in every step you make when you're spraying the product, as you should with any herbicide. So if you feel comfortable spraying herbicides, then you should feel comfortable spraying any of the subvert products. And as far as a product for regular use to go along with your granular program, probably MFT would be my number one recommendation. Robert Butler says, also have this incredibly fine-bladed grass that you can literally roll up like carpet, very shallow rooted. The blades have the POA wrinkle midway, but it's very fine. Could this also be trim? Doesn't sound like it. That sounds more like bent grass, to be honest. Shane Brady, what's going on? The hardest working man in lawn care. Joseph, the shelf life for subvert is going to be anywhere from a year to 2 years, wherever there. Again, just don't let it freeze. Yeah, I'm not even controlling the sound on the hill. Yeah, I don't have any control over that. I'm sure I could. I just don't know how to do it. Matt Martinez says, I want to smoke off my common Bermuda and seed with Arden early next season. Should I wait until the last month of season to smoke it off and then reapply Glide at the start of next to ensure common dead? I would do all of that probably in the spring. Yeah, you could, but I'm telling you, if you let it go all winter without coverage, without grass actively on it to protect your soil, you are going to have so much of a harder time getting new seed established on it. Why? Because you're going to be losing a lot of organic carbon in your soil to the atmosphere, and it's just going to make it that much more difficult to get it established. What I would do is, because you don't even want to start seeding Arden 15 till your soil temperatures get up there till probably closer to the 80s. Now, technically, can you do it at 55 or 65 or 70? Yeah, but as far as really being able to flip it around, I would wait till about 80 or 75 to 80 F is about where I would get started. Up until then, I would be making my glyphosate application. So I would start at green up and continue making glyphosate applications up until my seed date. And then that's when I would get going. Lord of Junk says, a neighbor seeded Bermuda 2 weeks ago. A lot of crab and sedge popping up. How soon can he spray quinclorac or dismiss? Depending on the type of Bermuda he seeded, quinclorac may be your better bet. Understand, though, quinclorac can be hard on hybrid versions of Bermuda. If it's a common version of Bermuda, you should be okay. Do not apply dismiss to Bermuda that's that young. Personally, I wouldn't. I would stick to Pro Sedge or Solero. One of those two would be your better bet. Meeb says August 30th, late enough to spray violets. Need the overseed around the end of September and don't want triclopyr messing with germination. Yes, you're fine there. If you're spraying triclopyr, then yeah, you can certainly spray it in at the end of August. It says 4 weeks. I've cut it closer to 2 weeks before. I may have cut it closer to 7 days before. So you'd be all right. Matt, it would appear that the grasshoppers are making my Bermuda their buffet. Wow. That's a tough one because there's not really super effective control measures for grasshoppers. I wish I had a better answer for you. You can try one of the pyrethroids if they're really bothering you or they're causing any kind of extensive damage. Leaf hoppers were the big ones that I've seen in like parts of Georgia and Alabama and stuff cause problems before. And usually I would have to run something like, let me see. At the time I could do that then. I can't do that now. Maybe something like permethrin would work for you. So yeah, may want to go that route. But again, if it looks like they're clearing up or you can like turn on a sprinkler and get them to move out of the way or something, I'd probably go that route first before I'd get out there making an insecticide application. Polo says, when overseeding, if you have time, should you put down fertilizer with the seed or wait a week then fertilize, or does it really matter? I'm assuming you're applying a starter fertilizer. I would make sure that if I'm putting down seed, I am putting down fertilizer. I would not wait a week and come back and fertilize it. Phosphorus is very immobile in the soil, so you want to get it down either prior to or at time of seeding to allow movement downward to catch up with the development of the root system. So no, I would not wait a week and come back and fertilize. Get it all done while you're there, be done with it and over with. And then come back 4 weeks later and do it all over again and start your grow-in program after that. Roshan Parker says, when is the best time to dethatch? Do you recommend the traditional way or use of the Green County products? Grass is good and plan to aerate and overseed, but I never have dethatched before. Will it help? Here's the thing. I don't know what kind of grass you have, Roshan, but if you have warm season grass, normally you want to do that at the early onset of the season, so like May up until June, somewhere time frame in there. And really what you're using a dethatcher for in warm season grass is more like verticutting. And unfortunately, you cannot get a verticutting-like effect out of something that is a liquid dethatch product or that contains molasses or something like that. It's not going to serve the same function as a verticutter. If you have cool season grass, it depends on what you're choosing to do from it. If you're actually trying to thin the canopy because you have just simply too much turf density. Hello, people with Kentucky bluegrass, or even Evan with his fine fescue up in North Dakota, where literally the density becomes a problem. Then using a dethatcher to actually physically remove pieces of grass from it is a good option. Again, a molasses product is not going to do anything for you in that situation. I've talked about it on the radio show before. We've done several studies. We've gone over several studies. There was one recently I found out of Clemson University that looked at thatch removal using molasses, and it was somewhere around like 800 ounces being applied or 80 ounces being applied per 1,000 square feet, and it was not Kentucky bluegrass. There you go. In Columbus, do you need to dethatch? Probably not. If you want to do it to thin it out in the spring, early spring, like March or April timeframe, you certainly can. But do you have to do that? No, you definitely don't have to either. But again, out of Clemson, I saw that study related to thatch removal using incredibly high rates of molasses, and it wasn't overly effective in that scenario for true thatch. Now, there's other benefits that come along with it, but as far as actually physical digestion of thatch, it doesn't exactly work that way. For your own house, do you lean towards spraying or granular applications? It depends on what I'm doing, Michael. First off, I treated lawns for so long. I promise you, the last thing I'm interested in doing is coming home and maintaining my lawn. Now, granted, I do okay. It's not horrific, and if I have time to, I will invest the time in it. But normally, I do not have significant amounts of time. So, what I'm looking for is absolute. Here is my lawn right now. It looks fine. It's it's green, and the green screen is coming up on it. Well, that tells you it's at least green. I've got pictures on Instagram or something like that. It looks okay. I'm normally going for ease. So if I'm making an herbicide application, normally I'll throw something in the tank to spray. If I am making just a fertilizer application, then normally I'll spread it. I own a granular company, so it's easier for me to apply granular fertilizer because any of the mismade stuff or something, a lot of times we'll have it sent to a plant here in Tennessee, and I can figure out a piece of equipment to get it applied or something like that. So normally I'm strapped for time, so granular just makes way more sense to me. Where's the best place to find studies pertaining to turfgrass? I think we went over that. I can't recall, but normally I start with the Google search and then find out which document it's in and then begin entering the wormhole from there. Just wondering if there were any ways to bring down levels from my soil report. My sulfur level is 53.4, calcium is 558, magnesium is 122, and sodium is 58.7. Could this be harmful to my yard? Your sodium's a little high. The rest of it, I'm not really concerned with at all. If you want to move sodium out of it, just give it a good heavy water and you can leach it out. Outside of that, I'm not concerned with those levels at all. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I would say that's a little low, especially on your calcium. So, I don't know what your pH is. I would assume it's low, so I would go ahead and plan on. I don't like to see calcium near 500 parts per million unless the pH is already in place. Then I would go ahead and I'd be applying calcium in that situation if I were you. That's just me personally. Get you a good chelated calcium and have at it. You poked the bear. Timmy Bluegrass says, Matt, a follow-up from last week. When is it safe to put humic acid on a newly seeded lawn without worrying about locking up phosphorus and inhibiting root growth? Once it's established. And what is the rule for establishment? I don't know. 2 cuts is kind of the general recommendation for that. So you get a couple cuts on it, and then you can start making those kinds of applications if you should so choose. Can a claim be mixed with Pylex? If so, have you tried? Yes, I have. Yes, you can. Yes, it works very well. What controls wild onion? Kentucky bluegrass transition zone. Dicamba does okay. That's why you see it in 3-way like products. 2,4-D ester works exceptionally well. So I like a combination that contains a 2,4-D ester formulation. So 2,4-D ester, triclopyr, fluroxypyr, like the Momentum FX2 works awesome. Love that mix. Lush X is the new normal. Symbiont says, Matt, sorry I'm late to the show. Very happy with my common Bermuda regulated with T-Nex, but I'm fighting mites. Yowza! And while it seems the first app of abamectin did well, should I back off the PGR until I get the other apps in? In my opinion, I would. I don't know if that's the correct answer, but just based on my experience in trying to get out the damage, I would say yes, Symbiont. Hold off on your PGR apps until it's fully recovered, and then put it back into regulation. Nick says, Matt, hope you stayed safe in that storm the other day. I did. What's the hype with seeding in dormant winter up north versus fall? I have no idea. That's purely a northern thing, and you would have to ask somebody up there because I don't know enough about it. It's silly to me. Brian Russell says, Northeast Ohio, rhizomatous tall fescue, planning on applying severe MFT products monthly from March through November at max label rate. Good idea. Bad. As long as you're doing it monthly, you're going to be fine. And yeah, I really don't see any problems with it. Now, when you're switching, I'm assuming you're going to be applying phosphorus at some point. I would not apply MFT and phosphorus at the same time. You certainly can, but I personally wouldn't. And the reason why is that there can be some interaction there. So when it comes time to apply phosphorus or seed, you're in Northeast Ohio, you probably don't have to. Then you can just run that straight through right there. Have you done any testing on CRRP for other crops? Sprayed some on strawberries and tiny fruit. Coincidence and energy redirected to roots. Yeah, actually we have. We have done not specifically strawberries, but soybean, wheat, durum. And it's one of those things, 32 ounces per acre. Don't make repeated applications. Just a single one and done type deal is normally the way we tested it, and average on corn too, average somewhere around 8 bushel per acre increase in a single application. If you're applying over 32 ounces per acre, say you're applying 1 gallon per acre, 2 gallons, or 3 gallons per acre, that would happen. But really, before you're experiencing that, Ben, what you would likely see is plant death rather than just decrease. Because once you're fine, the plant dies. It's literally that dramatic, that drastic, that sudden. Very, very fine line between doing great and then dead. Transition zone, North Carolina, shaded lawn has always failed with turf type tall fescue. Tried fine fescue, open up canopy, and it's done decent. Any recommendations for fine fescue versus tall fescue? No. Well, yes, stop mowing it altogether. Don't fertilize it. Maybe fertilize it once of the year in spring. And outside of that, leave it alone and try not to cut it if at all you can. That would be the only recommendation. Now, you said you opened up the canopy and Fine Fescue has done decent. Well, my guess is if you had opened up the canopy and tried Tall Fescue, it may have done decent too. You will have to seed it every year. Fine Fescue, you may not have to every year, but you should see about the same amount of dieback. But again, don't fertilize it and do not mow it if at all possible. Lord of Junk says, I picked up some X-Oil and 818. Got it sitting in my shed and it's stanky. Thank you, Paul Rhodes. Anyone have luck with any particular plan of Mutilizone garden hose timers? Whoa. Multi-zone garden hose timers. There you go. I don't know. I have not used those. Matt, any issue combining peptides via Severa and carbonate products and humic fulvic kelp to aggressively drive roots this fall? Any point of diminishing returns or stressing the plant? We've tried it, Damon, a couple times, and we can't see any difference one way with it or one way without it. And that's why we pulled the humic and fulvic out of our products and replaced it with the peptide material. So actually in carbonate products, we actually use the Subvert peptide material in our material. We tried it, obviously, with humic fulvic kelp and saw no difference whatsoever. And so that's why we opted to go just the peptides, because that was where we saw the biggest performance, especially compared to the amount of money we were putting into it. Gray Fox says, hey, Matt, I'm doing a bare dirt reno this fall with turf tall fescue, Kentucky bluegrass. Would it be best to aerate and seed or use a slit seeder? If you're doing a bare dirt reno, I would use a slit seeder, my friend. And I'm way low on K. There we go. Is there such a thing as heat-tolerant Kentucky bluegrass? Yeah, there's lots of them out there. And is it going to be the smoking gun for you, deep roots? I don't know. Real O'Dad, Mikey here in Knoxville, and man, we've had a hot summer. We had a real weird spring where, I don't know what that was. We had a real weird spring where we greened up in February, and then we had a freeze in May, and then it went from that to high, and then we had an extended drought, and now we're kind of back out of the drought, and it's still hot. So, yeah, and we see he still kind of has some. Let's see. We see it's still having some struggle in the heat of the summer, but it's doing okay. It's not fully dead. It has about the same amount of dieback as tall fescue does in our area. And the difference is that he's mowing it at like 15 millimeters or something like that, something ridiculously low. Did he say lawn covered in goo? Probably. How many quinclorac MSO apps will it take to kill torpedo grass? At least 3. You're going to have to stay on to it because it's probably going to come back for a few years. Polo says, when will that product be available? It's a product now. It's available now. So whenever is fine. And it's a 4005. George Popa says, yo, Matt, in your turf sup other day, you recommended to alternate herbicides for resistance. You didn't recommend triplet for year after year applications. Why? Since it has 3 AIs, wouldn't that be okay? Triplet does not have 3 AIs. It has, wait. It has 3 AIs, but only one mode of action. You have to rotate mode of actions, not active ingredients. Changing active ingredients doesn't mean anything. You have to rotate mode of actions. That's why I get so frustrated about our pre-emergent options. The only thing we have is a dinitroalanine, DNase, right? So, you look at, you're out there, you're trying to pick a pre-emergent, and you've got, I've got prodiamine, I've got pendimethalin, and I've got dithiapyr, dimension. Well, they're all the same mode of action, so you can't rotate those and expect any kind of herbicide resistance management out of it. So that's why I do not recommend running 3 AIs that are in the same mode of action repeatedly. You want to actually rotate mode of actions, not AIs. I'm beginning to get that overseed itch to my overwinter in my Bermuda. Should I slap myself silly for considering this? If not, what cultivar? Bermuda? Cornell, I think you should try Bermuda. Everybody's done the perennial ryegrass thing, and it's a bit of a is tricky, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because it really does put the hammer on your Bermuda grass. So you're skipping the whole allolepathy piece by using Bermuda. And so in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think you should try Bermuda in lieu of trying perennial ryegrass. That's my take on it. True Z52 fan here. That's what I'm talking about. Z52 Meyer is just, I like it right there. Alabama, where it's hot, humid, and hazy 8 months out of the year. My man. Hey, I have Dollar Spot breaking out. Thiophanate methyl applied 14 days ago. Recommendations: hurry up and make another application, because thiophanate methyl is not, you're 14 days max out of that product. So hurry up and get out of there and apply something else. Ray is saying here, T-Nex and a new is less detrimental to Bermuda, and you're exactly right. I'm going to run a new next year, and I'm excited about it because I think that should be a pretty significant difference. To Lashley, you're texting me now. The paclobutrazole was just really, really, really hard on common Bermuda. That is for sure. My favorite turf-type tall fescue seed, the one I have the most experience with, thus I always recommend with the utmost respect, is Mountain View seeds. It's difficult to find. They are if OSU Turfman is still here, they are a boutique kind of seed producer. A little bit difficult to find, but if they're available in your area, I recommend it. If they're not available in your area, there's lots of other great seed out there. So just don't get hung up on that. Now, I will say that I got it for the lateral spread variety, and what I have to say is that its performance in transition zone has been badass, including year after year performance. Now, do I still need to overseed it? Yes, I do, but less than I would have expected. And also, performance year 2 and year 3 has been fantastic, especially in terms of disease performance. It's just been tremendously different, especially compared to that first year. So I love what comes out of Mountain View seed. And in fact, so my front yard is Valkyrie, Spider, and Screamer. I think it's those three, something like that. How much cutting did you do? So it was at 2 inches. I cut it to 1 inch with the Toro, and then I took it down to 0.6 with the reel. I only had to cut it once with the Toro, and I had to cut it 3 times with the reel at 0.6 inches. And boy, it was a lot of clippings. Zantiago says, hey, I have turf-type tall fescue, but was not able to control my winter weeds this past spring. I already have seed from last year. In the fall, should use my seed before it goes bad or put down a pre-emergent. I can't make that judgment call. I don't know what kind of seed you have. I don't know how clean your seed is. You could have had all your weeds come from your seed. If you bought seed from Home Depot, then you have to look at that part that says other crop. Other crop can be weed seeds. Just because it doesn't list noxious weeds is a very small list of maybe like 24 different cultivars. Well, there's hundreds of different weeds out there, thousands of different weeds. And if it's beneath a certain threshold, then they will put it under other crop. And just because it's blue tag certified does not mean it is POA free. It will specify if it's blue tag certified, it's just stating that the seed that's in there is what they say is in there. Unless it says certified POA free, then they're certifying that without a doubt, 100%, there's no POA annua in that seed. So I don't know. I can't answer that for you, Santiago. Unfortunately, that's a judgment call you're going to have to make based on the quality of the materials that you have in front of you. It's difficult to find a seed just available out there that has 0% weed seed, 0% other crop. I'll tell you exactly who does, and this is what I love about Pete's seed at GCI Turf. Great seed, great cultivars, and is incredibly clean. Some of the cleanest seed you can buy. And that's why before I ever recommended buying anything from a Home Depot or an over the counter kind of store like that, I would much rather see you put down something like that from Pete, because without a doubt, I know the source of that seed and I know it is clean. I look at the labels every year and it is super top notch. Let's see. What's up, dude? What's up, Connell? Brother Matt, I have had an outbreak of Pythium in my mostly turf-tight tall fescue yard. Applied 3.8 pounds per thousand of azoxy 3 weeks ago. Spot sprayed with myclobutanil a week ago, and hose in propiconazole last night. What to do? Mefenoxam. Mefenoxam is what you want to go with. Should I splurge on either Signature or Stellar? I have no experience with either of those, so I don't know what the active ingredient is in those. Maybe if you told me what the active ingredient is, I may know. But if I'm dealing with Pythium, normally the first two I go to is going to be phosphite and mefenoxam. Those are going to be the first two. There's other ones out there like Chipco, Facetyl aluminum. That would be a good product for you too as well. Does anyone have a hot tip for keeping sand out of irrigation heads while leveling or top dressing? That one, I don't. I just let them get in there and then blow it out after the fact. Have heard of turf-tight tall fescue always needing to be overseeded. Yard damn good currently. What are your thoughts? Yes, still overseed it, just at a low rate. Maybe only apply it 2 to 4 pounds per thousand with your overseed and call it good. I have a hillside that is red clay. Any products that will make it fertile, or do I need new soil? Yeah, X-Soil is a great product for that. That's what I designed it for. How hot is hot for applying X-Soil? I saw it on the answer beneath, and so that's what made me think of it. Yeah, any kind of organic matter, man. Chicken litter is a good one. Compost is a good one. Yeah, get you some compost, top dress it out over that red clay, and boy, you're going to grow grass out of it that has horns coming out of it. As far as X-Soil, how hot is too hot? I'm not worried about upper limits. I'm worried about lower limits. If it's lower than 55 outside, there's no real point in you applying it, in my opinion. Thoughts on automations for billing and estimating? This is a great question here. The only people I know that has great automations for billing and estimating would be Service Autopilot. In fact, you can program in automations into that software. Now, I came up in this industry on Real Green Systems. And I have to say, at the end of the day, I have a special place in my heart for Real Green. Now, that being said, I also know that Service Autopilot has come a long way. I've used both. I have not used the new Real Green. I used automations before I got out of lawn care, I was using automations in Service Autopilot to a very small degree. I love both of those pieces of software, and I have to tell you this, at the end of the day, whichever one you choose to go with, it is not a losing battle. You are winning whichever one you so choose to go with. But Rose, what is most important is that you invest the time into tailoring that software to your company. When I did that with Service Autopilot, it made my life a hell of a lot easier. And when it was already done with corporate structure, with Real Green, it made my life unbelievably easy. So at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to you. And there's not really a wrong answer in that type of scenario. Let's see. Tempo Ultra would work really well for the grasshoppers. There you go. Tempo's a good one. Don't get it on your skin. It burns. Is it really necessary waiting 4 weeks after spraying triplet to overseed? Yeah, no. What's up, Robert Palmer? How are you, good sir? Let's see here. What's the best to kill crabgrass right now? I don't know, Lawn Care Monster, what kind of grass you have, but I'll give you some. I'm making a Lush X shirt. Look at Asami. What I would recommend is a couple of different things. If you've got warm season grass, I would be running some sort of ridiculous cocktail like a Tribute Total application or something like that. If I've got cool season grass, I'm running Sure Power and Quinclorac. As simple as that. Pylex would also be another good one too. Ray, don't fight me for saying Pylex and crabgrass. I'm sorry. I apologize. Run Quinclorac and Pylex. How about that? Polo says, if I renovate September 1st, apply X-Start with seed, then 4 weeks after, yes. Would that be too much phosphorus? No. So this is what you could do. You can apply X-Start with your seed, and then 4 weeks after, switch to something like switch to something like X-Drive after your X-Start application. If you already have high P, yeah, you can use X-Screen or even Carbon X at seed establishment. That's fine. You're not going to hurt anything there. But still, just because you're high in P, I would still go ahead and probably apply, unless you're just way off the charts on phosphorus, I would still go ahead and apply a little bit of phosphorus with your seed. Copper and zinc high in the backyard, is that bad? No, not necessarily, but if you want to lower it, collect your clippings and discard them off site. And don't apply them. Can you recommend a good granular humic acid? No, not off the top of my, probably Anderson's. They've got a granular humic. Yeah, so humic DG would be that one. I'm not a huge, overwhelming proponent of humic acid. So it's one of those things, when I started using it and came out, it was doing great things for me. And then the longer you went with it, the less it was doing for me. So that was why I ultimately decided to pull it from the things I was working on. Tim Altman, what can I do to bring down my pH level? Minus 7.22. I asked the questions earlier about the high levels of calcium. You do have high, that's actually low calcium, but you have a pH of 7.22. I have Kentucky bluegrass in Minnesota. Ammonium sulfate as your nitrogen source would be all you really need to do, because the 7.22 isn't awful. But if you changed over all your nitrogen to ammonium sulfate, you'd be set. You don't have to worry about anything. And a 7.2 isn't out of control high, so I wouldn't be sweating it. If you want to make an elemental sulfur application, you can. Do you need to? Probably not. Let's see. Sulfosulfuron. Seeding is dependent on seed type. It varies from, look at you, Lushy. Look at you, Lushy. Wait. I skipped down here. What kills Kalinga and Centipede when it is hot and you can no longer get a magic win because the product you use changed active ingredient? What kills Kalinga? Solero. That's where sulfosulfuron. Yeah. Certainty would be a good one in that situation too. What product will kill perennial ryegrass out of Bermuda? I would use, personally, I use Monument. Monument is the best product I use. Monument or Katana would be the two best. I don't think you can use Katana in residential anymore. I would use my Monument. Have you or anyone you know tested Carbon products on growing cannabis? I'm currently testing Exo on a side-by-side comparison. Very excited. Although, yes, in hemp, this is in hemp applications. Yeah, we've done a lot of that material in hemp in our local area there, and had good results with it as well, too. Hi, Matt. Join late. Would triclopyr be effective in controlling common Bermuda and turf-type tall fescue, East Tennessee? No, it wouldn't. You would have to combine that at minimum with Ornamec over the top, fluazepop at minimum. California, by the way, it's legal here. There you go. Will Solero or Certainty work without burning the lawn? Yes, correct. It will not burn the lawn. Let's see here. Why is lime bad for my cool season grass? General question. I have no soil test. Because if you already have a high, you're in Iowa, Discworld, and if you are applying lime in an already high pH, you are basically forcing your fertilizers, you're forcing your pH higher. Therefore, your fertilizers are going to work less and less and less and less. So you certainly do not want to apply lime unless you know for sure you have acidic soil, because raising the pH on a lawn that is already high pH, you're screwing up the potential for grass to grow in that scenario. It's just going to cause a problem. And mainly due to nutrient availability to the grass. So there is a chart you can look up that is pH nutrient availability, pH nutrient chart. If you do that, you can see. And you can just follow over as you start moving into a pH of 8, 8.5. You see nitrogen becomes less available. Phosphorus does. Calcium starts to. Magnesium does. Iron does. Manganese does. Boron to a point. Copper and zinc do. So you're basically starving your plant at that point. Great. How does Sledgehammer stack up on Kalinga and Centipede? That does not work well. It's never been good on Kalinga, and not a good choice for that. Oh, look, Ray's getting in on there on it. Let's see here. I dropped handfuls of urea on my bare spots, Bermuda. Bad experiment. Let's just say adult. Slaw Dog Sawyer. That is one of my favorite comments of the year right there, sir. That is a good one. Hey, Matt, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, back to Bermuda. What, in your opinion, is the best combination of Bermuda and bluegrass for my fescue? Just pick your poison, to be honest. You don't have to get fancy with it because you're only serving the purpose of the bluegrass to be green when your Bermuda grass can't be green, right? So any kind of Bermuda grass, I picked the darkest green bluegrass that you could possibly get. And for your Bermuda grass, you pick whatever it is you want to run. You want to run one of the new Ardens or whatever the case. You want to run common Bermuda. I mean, all those hold fine colors, so you don't have to get creative or expensive or out of control with it. You just want whatever Bermuda is going to be green while it's hot outside when your bluegrass is going to struggle. So really, you don't have to get fancy with it. Just whatever it is you feel like putting down. You just need to serve a short temporary purpose. Sledgehammer is non-burning for the most part. Can you do Bermuda in Texas? Yes, you can do Bermuda in Texas. Let's see. Hey, Matt, in Fayetteville. Oh, wait, I already read that. Slaw Dog. Yep, perennial ryegrass put a whooping on my hybrid Bermuda. I'll be doing Bermuda this year. There you go. I applied Exemplar 15 days ago on dollar spot full rate with Pete's O2YS, and it's coming back. Says I'm supposed to get 25 days out of it. What do you suggest? Reapply. Reapply. I know it says you're going to get 25 days out of it, but good luck. If your disease pressure is that high, man, I'm telling you, dude, you just good luck. There are some other things you can do culturally to try and help along with that. Wash off any dew that forms in the morning. Make sure you've got plenty of potassium and micronutrients down too. We're going to be a good one. In fact, probably what I would do is apply like a 1-to-1-to-1 or an NDK, 1-to-1 NDK, and plenty of micronutrients, and in combination with your Exemplar fungicide application. And again, make sure you're keeping keep the dew off. So flip your irrigation on early in the morning for 3, 4, 5 minutes just to get 1 or 2 rotations out of it to knock the dew off, and that's going to help a lot. Money B, favorite spot area to go out in Nashville, not on Broadway, and are you a Hattie B's fan? Listen to me, this is Nashville. I have spent so little time in Nashville. Man, there was a, oh, golly. So there was, I can't remember the name of it, but when I was in college, I used to go to this place in the Gulch that was a music place, and I've seen so many concerts there, and I cannot remember what the name of it is because normally I wasn't driving, and for good reason. But that was above and beyond, and it's still open. But just the whole Gulch scene right there was always what I like. I'm kind of a hipster in a weird redneck kind of way. I don't know how else to describe it. And I'll give you a hint. Like the last time I was there, and this was the last time I was there, I saw pretty lights there. So and it is weird and hip. I don't know. A Hattie B's fan. What is Hattie B's? That sounds familiar. Oh, Hattie B's hot chicken. Listen, I'm from Memphis, man. I'm from Memphis, so for me, it's Gus's, right? But I'll tell you right now, I will get down on some hot chicken without a doubt all day, 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day. Trust me, I'm a big boy. I love to eat, and I love some hot chicken. On Bermuda grass in South Carolina, what is best to use for dollar spot fungus? It's been in 90s almost every day. I would be fertilizing it out. You can easily fertilize out dollar spot out of Bermuda grass. So that's what I would do. William said, I got some Bermuda seed from Home Depot, and my yard was filled with these little fern-like plants that had a strong smell. A fern-like plant that had a strong smell. I'm thinking, what is that? I think it's chamber bitter is what you're talking about. I'm guessing. And I doubt you got chamber bitter from it. More than likely, it's just something that's there. And Especially in Memphis. I always had to deal a lot with chamber bitter. So that is my guess. I've done a lot of tests with at least the Scott's version of Bermuda, and I've never had a weed come up in it yet. And I've gone through, I don't know, several hundred pounds of it in a purely experimental controlled environment. Danger Lawn says, how do you recommend prepping a Bermuda lawn for Kentucky bluegrass overseed to create Bermuda? I plan to use T-Nex to slow Bermuda before scalping, and I don't know if I should slit seed, hand rake, or aerate. So personally, I would slit seed, and I would get it under real heavy regulation prior to. I would scalp it down, slit seed it, and call it good. Customer wants ivy removed from area. Would you recommend triclopyr to kill it or dynamite it? Okay, so I'm assuming this is in a cool season area, like where fescue or your primary grasses. Yeah, you can do that, but you want to wait until it's cool outside. Do not go doing that right now, because let me tell you, from experience, you're going to end up causing more problems than you will causing a happy customer. That will drift in a heartbeat and take things out. So, but yes, ivy or, triclopyr or fluroxypyr would be good in that type of situation. Whoa, where am I? How to kill Bermuda out of turf tight tall fescue, Pilex, the Pilex program. I've done lots of videos on it. I like it. Tall star kills grasshoppers. Oh, okay. Put down Carbonex and the results are stunning. Awesome team winnings. That's awesome, man. Thank you, sir. What's the best fall pre-em for POA prevention? That would be, oh golly, what's it called? Indaziflam. What is it? Spectacle. Spectacle is the best for I'm assuming you have warm season grass. If you have cool season grass, do not apply a spectacle to it. You'll kill it. If you're talking about for cool season grass and applying a fall pre for POA prevention, good luck. There's nothing really great on the market. Your best bet is going to be at the fumicide. Actually, at the fumicide would be good. That would work well. Will Solero at the high rate mix with Sure Power be effective on sedge without a surfactant? Yes. Yes. The Sure Power is your issue. Yes, Sure Power will burn fescue. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of it. It contains a small amount of flumioxazine, which is a PPOI, same family as carfentrazone or sulfentrazone, so you will get discoloration out of it. Chase Mathis says, is it safe to put down a fall pre-emergent on my Bermuda lawn that was sodded in January of this year? 100% yes, no problems there. Damon Williams says, Matt, what do you think of reapplying mesotrione every 21 and 28 days to control POA annua until I can get to spring and see if a new has the impact Paul Outlaw saw with it? Mesotrione isn't going to be that effective on POA to begin with. You can, but I don't know if you're going to get the results out of it that you want. It will keep it suppressed more than likely, but I just don't think it's going to be that hard up for you. Now, kind of an interesting take on this, Damon, and this is a little bit experimental, but you can make fall applications of a new, up until it shuts down in growth naturally. So just keep that in the back of your mind as a tool in the toolbox. You may even want to go with it there. Let's see. Oh, I caught up. Hell yeah. It's coming. Hey, dog. All right, everybody, I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. It is 10:15. I got to get some work done, and so I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Like I said, I absolutely enjoy the absolute fire out of this. So love you all. We'll see ya. Oh, hey, tomorrow, turfsupradio.com. I'll be on, and in fact, I'm going to live stream it on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing that tomorrow at 4 to 6 p.m., doing a live stream right here on the old YouTube again. We'll see y'all on the flip side.